It's been an interesting week. A couple of days ago, after removing some tables in my art studio, which is really just a small den in this very small apartment that I live in, I woke up the next morning in excruciating pain, back spasms. Now, I've only had this happen one other time in my life. It was about 4 years ago when Marlo was in the hospital. He was dying, and we had stepped out to the grocery store for a moment, and all of a sudden, I couldn't walk. I ended up in the emergency room, and they really couldn't do much except give me opioids and send me on my way. So when this happened again a couple of days ago, I had a pretty good idea what I was dealing with. I knew what I needed to do, and I've been very intentional about how I'm navigating it, because the ninja move here is to actually not move. And when I do move, it has to be incredibly deliberate, incredibly present, because if something tweaks even slightly, it can send my back right back into spasm. And if you've ever had back spasms, you know how excruciating it can be. So right now, as I'm recording this, I'm sitting on my sofa where I always record. My hair's a mess, no makeup. I'm not lifting my arms, moving around, not twisting or turning. You're really just getting me as I am in this moment, right in the middle of this 2-day ordeal so far. When a spasm hits, it can be so intense that I will literally let out a screech. And I'm actually quite good managing pain most of the time. So staying with that going on is not anything too terribly easy, but that's where the work lies. It actually feels quite nuanced. And that's why I wanted to record something about this for myself and for you, because what's happening here is all content of the mind. My mind's interpretation of the pain, the body firing, muscles tightening, everything trying to protect, and doing it in a very overreactive way. And I'll emphasize here is that the mind is not the enemy, but it does, however, function much, much differently and better, in my opinion, depending on what is leading. Conscious awareness first, then the mind. That's the order. And there is really only one way to be with it, and that's in awareness. Because the moment I move into resistance, the body clamps down even more. It can be a wild ride. And while there's always tools to help with the mind-body connection and all that's firing. In fact, during this particular episode, there's been a breathing tool that I've used. A full inhale, and then a soft ha on the exhale. That's all content coming from the mind. That's something that I can do, something the mind understands might help the body soften, even slightly. And I have to say, in the middle of doing that, I wasn't getting a lot of relief. This can be really intense. But even a 1/1000th of a percent shift makes a difference when you're in that state. And at the same time, what I'm really noticing is this. I didn't leave myself in the pain. And I also didn't go fully in trying to manage it. There was something about being in conscious awareness, which is not a mindset shift, that actually allowed me to use the tool of breathing that certain way, in a much cleaner way, not from urgency and not from resistance, and not from this has to work, but from being here, from staying in awareness. And I want to say something here, because this can really get misunderstood over and over again. This is not a mindset shift. I'm not trying to think differently about the pain. I'm not reframing it. I'm not telling myself a better story. The pain is still the pain. What's different is what I'm orienting from first. Am I orienting from the content of what's happening inside the pain, trying to fix it, manage it, get away from it? Or is there an awareness here that I can actually orient from, orient in, that allows me to be with what's happening without leaving myself? That's context. And from there, something shifts. And it's not because the pain goes away, but because I'm no longer completely inside of it. So even something like the breathing, it's not being used from panic. It's not being used from this has to work. It's being used by the mind from a different place. And that is a place of orientation, conscious awareness. And that's a completely different experience. It's the difference between trying to manage the allness and being in the allness and letting what's helpful from the mind be used from there. So I'm sitting here today, not able to do much. Everything has essentially been set down. There's that saying, I don't know who said it. The situation is the boss. And right now, this is the boss. And what's been interesting is that the moment I stopped gripping against my back spasms, I stopped telling myself I should be doing more, trying to make it better, something opened. It was the desire to speak with you. It came not from pressure, but from being here in real life circumstances, lived notes on the road, the lived experience of the difference between content and context. And yet conscious awareness is the place where real freedom always begins. Thank you for being here today. I'll see you soon as we continue our conversation about the differences between content and context.